Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
And welcome into Life Planning 101 on KTX, KDY. Terry Slavens with you on this beautiful Monday morning, and we're joined, as always, by Angela Kennedy Robinson. Good morning, Angela.
Good Monday morning, and welcome to another week in COVID-19, right?
Yeah.
I had everybody going for half a second there, and then I got a frown from across the table. But, actually, we're going to do a little focus on what we're, I think, all going through. Because we talk so much about life planning, and it is just that. The fact is that are you living for your money, or is your money working for you and allowing you to live? And we always ask those questions. And at the root of that comes, with what's on top of your mind right now. What are you struggling with the most? What's the dangers to you right now? And I had a strategic coach call. I've mentioned that I've been in that coaching group for many times on the show, and absolutely love Dan Sullivan and all that he does. And I tell you what, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to be looking at his stuff, because he's just phenomenal. He's got incredible material to help you think, even in times like this. And on the call, they came up with something, and I thought, I think I'm doing pretty good through all this, because 2 years ago I moved my office home. So I go in to see clients at the office, but I've been officing for home. We've had a remote office environment since 2006.
Wow.
We're 14 years into what people are finding brand new right now. And so I thought, I'm really doing pretty good. And then Strategic Coach, they have these tools that they use to really dig and see what's going on, what's really going on with you. Well, they found something. And I am struggling with something, by George. And I'm struggling with the fact that I've got my kids in the background all day, every single day, and it never stops. And what I came to realize is that I'm not getting any true rejuvenation time. I'm just going 100% of the time. Even the time that I consider free time isn't really free time, because I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old that are always needing attention of some sort, right? And I love them to death, but we all need rejuvenation,
right?
And pure rejuvenation. Yes, there is family rejuvenation, but then there's pure rejuvenation, and I wasn't getting this. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I need. This is kind of blocking my mind, making me just go through the motions in a lot of ways, dealing with every crisis as it comes my way, and doing things as they need to be done, rather than really taking a step back and approaching things as I usually do, from an overall holistic mindset. And okay, we can do this, and we can delegate this and this and this and this, and get rid of a lot of stress. And so it took a big sitting down on Friday, and I came to Jesus talk with myself. This is some things that have got to change, right? And as I did this, I thought, I'm not the only one. We're all going through this COVID-19 together. We're in different boats, like we talked about before, but everybody's got their issues. So I went back to my notes from my call, and I started writing down some of the issues that I heard other people talking about that they were facing and what their struggles were. And then I started writing down the things that our clients have been telling us they've been facing, and friends have been telling us that they've been facing, and family members. And I came up with a pretty good list of what I think is the issues of COVID-19. And I thought, everybody needs a place to start. And if you're like me, most of the time, you just start Googling, and you never know what answer you're going to get. Sometimes you get good, sometimes you get bad. And if you forget to pray about it, you certainly aren't going to get great. So no matter how you look at it. And so I thought, well, okay, this is what we can do for people. We can come up with an issues and resources list, a place to start, a place to get your mind working in the direction that needs to be working based on the issues. So we're going to talk about today issues of COVID-19 and resources that are available for those issues. We're going to do the game board here, okay? We're going to talk about logistics, moving home, right? Family, money, business, mindset, and balance, work-life balance. How do you actually even accomplish that? Or should I say family, personal balance? Yeah, okay, it all one and the same right now. But we're going to talk about all of these things right here on Life Planning 101. You're not going to want to miss today's show when we come back.
Segment 2, Life Planning 101. Angela has great information for us this morning.
Yes, COVID issues, resources, and tidbits to help you get through. So I spoke about my personal story. So I want to start there. I want to talk about the person that's at home with their kids. And their husband. I hesitated to say that one, but maybe sometimes he doesn't listen to the show. Anyway, so, if you're overwhelmed by the noise, number one, here's a tidbit for you. Limit the news to 3 minutes a day.
Very good idea.
I mean, you see the record numbers of news time that people are watching. It's unbelievable. No wonder you're negative. Stop it. You don't have to know everything that's going out there. I promise you, if there's a cure for COVID-19, it's going to be the headline on every paper. It'll take you 2 seconds to read it. So, just limit the news to 3 minutes a day. I got in that bad habit. I'd get on and I think I even mentioned this on the show, with everything going on, I had to keep abreast. Okay, what is PPP? What is this? What is this? What is this? And I'd be on the news first thing at 5:30 in the morning. Well, how good is that on my mindset? I mean, that really cannot be good, right? So limit it to 3 minutes a day. Balancing remote work and life. I've got a website for you. Michael Hyatt. Michael, Michael, Hyatt, Hyatt. And by the way, all of this is going to be on our weekly life lessons this week. So if you subscribe to our newsletter at www.kennedy-financial.com, you will be able to get these COVID-19 issues, tidbits, and resources available to you. So, but he's done a great job with, how to balance this remote work and family life. And he's got things in there like doing routines to get your day jump started, and then a closing down routine. So you really finish like you're finishing out your day and leaving the office in a sense. Because I don't know if you're like me, I leave my computer up and say, I'll come deal with that after I've got dinner started. Yeah, and then it's stressing me out. So while I'm cooking dinner, that's supposed to be the time for wine, but this is not happening. So what's going on here, right? Number 3, lack of focus. This was something else I noticed in my world was, okay, my kids are in the other room, and yes, we are blessed enough that we have someone with them 24/7 during the day, but I hear them. And as a mom, you get mom ears. I know every mom knows what these are. These are the ears that all of a sudden dad doesn't hear them when they need to wake up in the middle of the night and you got to go tend to them. Or, we get these mom ears and they're just little antennas, right? And it's a question that you have to ask yourself. What are the obstacles keeping you from being the best you can be? What are those obstacles? And maybe you don't have solutions. But maybe you should just write down those obstacles. Because if you remember, our brains are trained that if we present an obstacle is actually not a negative thing. An obstacle is a defense mechanism. If we present that obstacle to ourselves, our unconscious mind will go to work to find a solution to that obstacle. But you have to present it to yourselves and not just let it pass by.
Admit that it's there.
Exactly. So write down what those obstacles are. Get yourself a good start. And then ask yourself, what could I do about them? Those are big. I want to kind of back the train up for a second. So we wrote a piece this week in conjunction to all this, and it's called The End of an Era. And I started out by talking about a good friend of ours that she has a line that I love. She says, when all you have is chicken feathers, you have to turn it into chicken soup. Yeah, interesting, right? But if you think about it, I think in a lot of ways, COVID-19 has left us with just that, right? Chicken feathers. And I think just like we were talking about during the break, some of us haven't even felt the brunt of the chicken feathers yet. For some of us, it's illness. For some of us, it's the finances. It's our loved ones that are suffering. It's not being able to see our loved ones. I think for all of us, whoever we are, we've all taken for granted a lot of things that we should have cherished more over the years. And we can all say that. Yeah, if we're honest with ourselves, right? We long to hug someone, or just in some cases to see their face and not on a computer screen so you can actually see the smile lines, right? We thirst for fellowship with our friends.
Church is opening back up.
Yes. We hunger for something else out of our own kitchen. There's this, right? So, but there's an author, her name is Robin Sharma. She stated, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. Well, I think the good news is for most of us, the hard part is nearing the end. But if she's right, what that really means is things are about to get really messy, right? Really, really messy. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way things are. I mean, we talked about that on the show with Aaron a few weeks ago from an investment perspective, a monetary, economic perspective.
What's the new normal going to look like?
Exactly. And, in reality, though, we can either take that as bad or we can actually see it as a good thing. And I see it as a really good thing because I think of the revolutions that we've had in our world up to this point, and you think of the Industrial Revolution that occurred. Before, every person had to do everything, and then machines were made. And assembly lines, thanks to, Ford, were made, right? Henry Ford. And had that never took place, mass efficiencies and production would have never occurred. Think about that. What about the information age? That's what we all know so dear is this information age. Computers, they wouldn't even exist if we never changed, right? The current pandemic that we're in, think about this. If we had never entered those two ages, that 1918 flu pandemic would probably be a lot what we're experiencing today. And by the way, it took between 20 and 50 million lives. No one knows for sure because there was no information age to track it, right?
Right.
20 and 50 million lives. Things could be a lot worse if you really think about it. So I want you to think now, where are we? We're on the brink of a vaccine of a disease that started, 6 months ago?
Sure, yeah.
That we know of, right? We think. I mean, no one really knows for sure. We think it's in December. But think about that technology. Think about where we're at. And a way we see it is like we talked about on the show a few weeks ago, we're entering a new age. Now, it's been creeping up on us. It's been warning us for years now. The only difference now is that COVID-19 has really just said, okay, doors are wide open and I'm flying through and crushing everything that's happened in its existence. And it doesn't really have an official name, but there's a lot of people out there that talk about it. Daniel Pink, one of my favorite authors, is one of those. And he calls it the conceptual age. He calls it the age in which your left brain is no longer what's going to be the success of the future. You're going to have to think outside the box and think with your right brain, because we're in a place and day and age, and think about this, we're in a place and day and age where people want something instantly.
Instant gratification.
They're also curious about the creativity, the imaginability, the agility, the resilience. They don't want to deal with anything that's harder than that. They don't want to deal with anything uninteresting. So it's a brand new age upon us. And I think, you think about that and you think about the fact that, okay, wait just a second. There's even better news behind all this. The better news is that when was the last time that we had an attack on our country? 9/11?
Yeah.
Okay. That was 20 years ago almost. Yeah. Okay.
19,
right?
19 this year. Yeah.
Exactly. And some of us remember that. Some of us have just kind of waylaid it. Some of us it didn't impact. So we really didn't even take it to heart. So let's go back before that. When was the time before that our country was attacked? Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Long time ago.
Almost 80 years ago. How many generations ago is that? Really think about this, okay? So this attack on our country today, in my opinion, has reminded us how blessed we are to be Americans. For the first time ever, I think young people are really appreciating the fact of being an American and what that means. So who's to say we can't be what the great generation was because of what's happening today? Because we are Americans and we will know what it means to pursue the American dream, because what we're left with is those chicken feathers, right?
Make chicken soup with.
That's exactly right. So if you're struggling with your mindset, here's a resource for you. Learn from Admiral Stockdale. We talked about him prior shows about the Stockdale paradox, and Jim Collins famously wrote this, and he said the people with the ultimate optimism were the ones that eventually died. It's the people that understood what the realities that they were facing but never gave up hope. And the way that he did that is absolutely amazing. So if you haven't seen that, if you haven't read it, make sure you go to our weekly life lessons and check that out. Another thing I think people are thinking about is I need a new way to think. If all this old is gone, what does my future even look like? Well, if you need a new way to think, start with what we just talked about. Start reading about a new perspective, a new era that could come upon us. Maybe you pick up Daniel Pink's book. What if you're having more bad days than good days? I think that's a lot of people right now.
And I think a lot of people are having parts of days, good and bad.
Exactly.
I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster.
It is. And so how do you get yourself settled? Well, in our resources, we actually have a link to Dan Sullivan's 3 simple P's that you follow every day to help you reset, retrain your brain, to rethink about things, right? What if everything is a priority? I mentioned that. everything was a priority for me. I'm telling you, PPP, EIDL, the government, every CARE Act. I mean, my gosh. And this was on top of everything else, and it still is. It's still every day is a new world because of all this legislation that's passed, because of everything that we're dealing with the investment environment, what this looks like for the future, and taking a hold of this. So everything is a priority. So I have to ask you a question. I was talking to an entrepreneur, and he said, yes, he says, I'm dealing with issues I haven't dealt with in 30 years. And I said, well, what do you mean you're dealing with issues you haven't? Well, I'm having to go in and I'm having to get the mail out every day. I haven't had to do that in 30 years. I don't even know how to run the dang machine. And I said, well, why are you doing that? And he said, because I'm the only one that can go in the office. I said, well, what if you went in the office in the morning and you had someone come in the office in the afternoon? Oh, well, I hadn't thought about that. Are you stuck? Are you stuck because of you feel like everything is a crisis and everything is a priority, but maybe you need to get to that free thinking space for a minute and think outside the box on a different way that you can do something, because really the only way that everything is no longer a priority is if you get back to doing the things that only give you energy. We've got more COVID-19 issues and resources and tidbits right here on Life Planning 101 when we come back.
Final segment, Life Planning 101. We're talking about COVID-19.
Yes.
Things that can help.
Yes, issues. I think we're all facing issues in one capacity or another. Life has changed forevermore. Maybe you're even thinking about a remodel to your house. I know I am. But, right. Resources and tidbits. What can you be doing? What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? What do you need direction with? And I think we're all there. And, I mentioned about this piece that we put out about an end of an era, and John F. Kennedy, and we quoted him in there, and, he famously stated something that we can all familiarize with. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, right?
Right.
We have a patriotic duty right now to stay safe and to help other people stay safe. We have a patriotic duty to keep our values front and center as we stare fear in the face, if you think about it. And we have a patriotic duty not just to survive through this pandemic, but to thrive, to show the rest of the world what America is all about, the land of the free, the land of opportunity, right? That is America.
Absolutely.
And this is where we're at. So Kayleen Johnson said, I think that when the dust settles, we will realize how very little we need, how very much we actually have, and the true value of human connection.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff. So you take all that and you think about where you're at and what you're struggling with. You have a duty to overcome that. Now, it may start on your knees in prayer and looking up. It may start with just listening to this show and getting a little fire lit under your you-know-what. I don't know. But we all have a patriotic duty to do something about it, not just sit back and complain, poor pitiful me. Because if we complain, poor pitiful me, I promise you America will never be what America was, and it won't be anything greater. I think we have the opportunity to even make it greater because we're all coming from grit. We're all coming from a place we had to fight to get out of, right? So what does that mean for you? Where are you at? The Congress gave us a ton of resources to use. We've been talking about those in the breaks, about the money that's been available, right? So if you don't understand what's available to you with the COVID-19 congressional acts, we did a simplified summary. We did a show on this weeks ago. You can go on our website and be able to listen to the podcast or read, what is really probably most impactful for the type of listeners that listen to our show. It's really good. So that's one of the tidbits in here. What if you're worried about your investments? I think a lot of people, they get wrapped up. It's kind of like wrapped up in the mindset of everything is a crisis and I've got to go take care of the mail, right? Well, it's same being true about your investments. I think your money can get you so I think it's the perfect place for the devil to hide. I honestly do. I think it's the best place for the devil to hide because he's going to wrap your mind so hard around that and what's going on with the economy and investments that it's not going to allow you to free think and to look towards your future and look towards how am I going to move into this new era ahead in a better way, as a better person. There's a lot of things that can happen that are good, but are you actually doing that? So if you're worried about your investments, first thing is you got to get your mindset right on that, right? Cash confidence. Do you have it? Do you have cash confidence? And if you don't have cash confidence, you need to get cash confidence immediately. So make sure you follow that resource, and we've got some great resources on that. Okay. What about leading during a crisis? Are you a leader? You part of management? Do you have a team? Are you an entrepreneur? You got a business? Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's just simply leading your family. I know my 7-year-old son. He leads me all the time. I tell you what, he's amazing, right? But it's the attitude that he chooses. It's what he does, right? And we all have a choice in this. And whatever we're choosing inside is going to come out on the outside. And so you better make sure you get that right. So how do you get that right? Well, we've got a Scary Times Success Manual available to all of our clients by Dan Sullivan, and it is powerful. Talk about changing your mindset and being able to lead during a crisis. It's an amazing resource for that. What if you're struggling as an entrepreneur? I mean, we live in Texas. Whew. Okay. All right. Let's talk oil. Right? We got a lot of entrepreneurs in Texas that are drowning right now. Drowning. Everything's dried up. Well, we just talked about things being a choice. And for them, they may say, well, I don't have a choice. Well, yeah, you do. I'm going to shoot straight and shoot between the eyes, and you can shoot me between the eyes later on. But the reality is you do, because if you'll stop thinking about how bad things are and start looking at the obstacle itself, you might find opportunity like you've never seen before. That's the power of an entrepreneur. That's the way God created you to be, is to think that way.
The different industries that stopped making what they did on a regular basis to make masks, make hand sanitizer. I mean, distilleries making hand sanitizer.
Everything is supply and demand in this country. What is the demand? Where are the holes?
Right.
Why can't you fill them? Right? So if you're struggling with that, if you're still struggling with that, there's a great book, The Obstacle is the Way. It's pretty powerful. So again, another one. Worried about your future. I think a lot of people have a right to be worried about their future. What if you're retired? You concerned? Well, you have a right to be concerned. And if you're not sleeping at night, you probably need to do something about it. So in my opinion, we started out the year talking about 2020 vision. It's not too late to get 2020 vision this year. You just got to start somewhere. So we've got a resource for that. What about protecting your credit? Maybe your kids protecting their credit. I think we talked about this on the show, and a lot of people don't even know that it's available to them, but there's natural disaster code that you can do that with. So you need to be able to have that resource. It's so powerful. We put it on here by itself. And, one of the best things I actually heard, and this came straight from the R&D department, the rob and duplicate department that we use all the time. So I was on that coach call, and this guy said, yeah, I'm no longer an empty nester. I was an empty nester for a short 6 months, and then it happened. All my kids are moved back in with me. What are we doing with this time, right? I'm just overwhelmed by it. And he says, then I got to thinking, I'm going to make the most of it. They just saw their dad, who's in the construction business in an oil-heavy state, end up, things are a little bit different now. I'm going to make the most of it. We're going to learn about finances through all of this.
Right.
And we're going to learn about putting the family back together and how things are going to look going forward and setting goals and accomplishing those goals. I thought that was really powerful. So guess what you're going to get to hear about next week on the show? Some strategies and ideas behind that. So we're really excited. I think our sentiment is that Americans will be hard-headed, God-fearing Americans that we have always been, and that we're going to carry the American dream in our heart. And I think where there's a will, there's a way. And in some ways, there's going to be a bigger, better future ahead of us. So, early into this pandemic, if you remember, I shared something a dear friend said, and he said, I don't want to look back at this time and regret anything. And I'm going to ask you this again. A crisis is a terrible thing to waste, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Get your resources and tidbits for COVID-19 at www.kennedy-financial.com. My name is Angela Robinson. God bless you, all of you, and keep you safe and healthy and happy, and all of your family well during this unprecedented time as we move forward.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.